Welcome to the Executive Insights Podcast by AWS. I'm Shaown Nandi, and I am very excited to have our special guest, Dr. Lilian Pintea, who is Vice President of Conservation Science at the Jane Goodall Institute, joining us today. Lilian, thank you for coming all the way here today. Super excited to start out with a quote from your founder, Jane Goodall. Jane really started this adventure, and she famously said, "The power of knowing leads to the act of caring." How has this philosophy impacted your approach to leveraging artificial intelligence and data?
Jane believed that knowledge leads to compassion, which in turn inspires action. And Jane emphasized that in order to understanding chimpanzee threats, realizing that the health of people, animals, and shared environment is all interconnected is the first step in caring about chimpanzees, caring about the future of our planet. So the Jane Goodall Institute mission is continuing Jane's life's work, understanding and protecting chimpanzees, other great apes and habitats, but also working towards a compassionate and informed a group of people, which in turn use that knowledge to change the world, achieve positive changes in improving the lives of people, animals, and the shared environment. So empowered by this vision and empowered by this mission, we have now more than 65 years of research data. We have more than 25 years of applying innovative cutting-edge technologies, from satellite imageries to GIS and lately to generative AI and other AI approaches, to make sure that these are used as tools to improve the lives of people and empower them to make positive change in their communities.
That's really incredible. So what was your aha moment that really made you realize that AI could be so impactful for conservation science?
Well, a few months ago, we had a chance to host some colleagues from the AWS generative AI team in Gombe National Park in Tanzania. And we are there because we had this idea. We had this idea that we have these thousands of video records, which we have been struggling to use in any way. And now we have this generative AI and other AI approaches and tools and models, which enabled us not only to use face recognition to identify individual chimpanzees, but also to extract the actual behaviors of these individual chimpanzees, they group behaviors, relations to the environment, tool use, and things like that. And they had a chance to follow our field researchers in the field, following chimpanzees, seeing the methodology which Jane put in place 65 years ago, which involves actually taking handwritten notes by observing chimpanzees. Jane's message to us is that there is something special about the physical act of writing down what you observe in the forest at the moment. And realizing that this 65 years of research generated huge amount of handwritten notes. For the last 30 years, our partners in academia have been engaging an army of undergraduate students and volunteers to digitize this data, but we have been behind. And it has been, for example, our baboon data, which is the longest ongoing baboon research in the world, are still not digitized, 45 years of data. So when we realized at the moment that I think there is an opportunity here not only to develop a specific tool which help us to analyze and manage the video data for science, but step back and truly redesign the entire research process and develop this generative AI integrated platform which supports collaboration the way how Jane envisioned back, when she started her research. Just in a few minutes, suddenly we're able to improve the model to start recognizing the unique Gombe language. And this is really transformative because Gombe language is not just Swahili. It's a combination of local Kika languages spoken by field assistants from the nearby villages who are working for the Gombe Stream Research Center to collect this data, combined with Swahili and with some unique language which they developed over the years in Gombe. So being able just in few minutes to start training the model to start to recognize this unique Gombe language was that moment when we just looked at each other I heard my colleagues from the Gombe PI team saying, wow, this is truly an incredible transformation for our work.
That's truly a wow. I will tell you, I'm very jealous. It is on my bucket list to get to Gombe National Park and to even imagine the work these researchers are doing in the field.
Yeah.
So one question, 65 years of capturing notes in this very traditional handwritten way envisioned by Jane. How did you sort of get the research teams to be okay changing some of these traditional practices in terms of the data capture and digitization element? Was that difficult? Were there concerns, or how did that land?
I think it's, again, putting people at the center of applying this technology, not for the people, but with the people. Understanding that different partners are engaged at different stages of the research workflow. So, for example, talking about the local field researchers, I think their work will not be transformed as much because we're committed to continue Jane's methodology and vision to continue to collect this data written on the paper notes. What will change is what they're going to do when they're back in the office. The fact that now they have to scan this data, organize it, upload it into the cloud in a certain way. So that part of the workflow will change. The major change is going to happen on the Jane Goodall Institute side, and conservation science team, who is responsible to manage, organize, and then remove the barriers to access and use the data, which we are collecting from multiple programs, not just Gombe, but also from our conservation work, animal welfare work, education work, community development work across Africa and globally. And the conservation science team mission is to develop this integrated science and knowledge platform, which the generative AI research platform will be a really important component and maybe even will provide us a model how we can rethink the broader way how JGI is using data and knowledge and managing data and knowledge. Then the last group of stakeholders which are really critical will be the researchers and the scientists who not only digitizing, but they are analyzing and start asking research questions. And they're going to be engaged in the development of this platform from the beginning. They already have been engaged remotely, joining us in Gombe with a generative AI AWS team. And so their workflows, I believe, will change tremendously. But I've seen so many times that when scientists see the opportunity of a new tool or technology, when they understand it, when they trust it, when they have the right education and training, they will be able to start using it and add value to this data in ways which we cannot imagine.
I'm trying to envision this incredible time period, 65 years of humans using simple tools and capturing, and chimpanzees probably observing them and seeing that tool use. It's amazing you've kept that continuity. I'm curious, like in this data model, you have so much multimodal data. You have geospatial data, you have audio and video data. You of course have these dual languages in Swahili and Kiha. How do you build a unified data model? What are the challenges in that for such a complex, sort of diverse set of data?
Again, the major challenge has been on the human side, working with different teams responsible in collecting, organizing, managing data sets in different diverse environments and different institutions, enabling them to see the vision. That vision that by investing in integrated science and knowledge platform, it will empower everyone to start asking open science questions and collaborate in ways which it was not possible before. When Jane started her research in Gombe in the 60s, she collected the data herself first. And then she started engaging students, academic students. That has been a very exciting period where this new younger generation of researchers were bringing their questions, their curiosity, their passion to different aspects of understanding chimpanzees and environment. Chimpanzees are long-lived animals, and Gombe now is the only place on Earth which we can go 5 generations back to truly start understanding the genetics, the social ecological dynamics, the habitat change in ways which shape specific chimpanzee social behavior, such as, for example, warfare, and help us better understand not only chimpanzees, but ourselves and our own human evolution.
It's incredible to think about 5 generations of chimpanzee families, but also the data and the consistency of the gathering. That's amazing. So obviously you had to take a big decision to move from sort of keeping that data and that computational power from being on premise to the cloud. What were some of the things you had to think through to make sure that was the right decision for JGI?
The most important criteria for us is to be able to continue to engage in this research application and collaboration, not only for science, for the sake of science, but also the way how we bridge science with conservation action, how we bridge that new knowledge with action on the ground and improving the lives of people, animals, and shared environment, and the way how we reach to the youth, how we reach to education, how we support education. So the most critical approach to us was that we are enabled to manage and organize access to data, that we respect and listen to people's requirements, how to organize and manage this data on their behalf, how we share this data, who has access to it. And the AWS infrastructure is enabling us to organize this data in a way that we can continue to this collaborative long-term research approach with the researchers, with the scientists, but most importantly also with local communities, with the governments, because in every country which we work, we are a bridge between the government policies and local communities, and need to respect the local policies around data, information, knowledge sharing. And this flexibility truly empowers the Jane Goodall Institute to continue to be this trusted partner in unlocking the potential of AI in a hyper-localized way, which enables us to continue our work with just much more powerful tools.
I'm curious, as you enable collaborative research, how do you sort of balance the needs of data sovereignty and the local people, the indigenous people, and your research partners? How do you find that right balance, and what are some of the considerations?
We have this approach, which Jane and the Jane Goodall team started in Tanzania with 12 villages at the beginning outside Gombe National Park. We call it Tacare. It's our Tacare community-led conservation approach. And now this approach is applied in Uganda, Congo, DRC, and other countries, Senegal. And it's one of these approaches which truly have a potential to be scaled across the globe. And as part of that approach is recognizing that local communities, the people of the place, have not only to be engaged and be part of this conservation efforts, but they truly have to own and drive decisions about their own natural resources. So before even engaging and bringing technology, the Tacare approach requires to sit down and start the process of proper engagement and listening to the local community's needs, understanding their values, understanding what they care about. Often, issues such as conservation are not the first priority for the local people. Access to clean water, access to food and natural resources, being able to have access to good health care, good education for their children, job opportunities. That is the top priority of the local people. So the Tacare process starts with that. And then, because the local people's livelihoods depend so deeply from the health of the natural resources and the ecosystem, supporting this ecosystem services, then you start bringing technology to help not only document the knowledge, but start visualizing, analyzing, and sharing how what they care about is connected to the health of this broader ecosystem which their livelihoods depend on. And when this is happening, including the use of technology in a context where the local communities own and drive themselves, this is where the trust comes in. This is where the potential of technology could be truly unlocked. And this is where what I'm excited about, the scaling is truly can happen, where the local individual actions could combine into a global impact. Because the future of our planet doesn't depend on only conservation organizations. We are very excited and passionate about our mission, but Jane's message is clear that every one of us, doesn't matter where we work, have a role to play and to contribute to this global vision of protecting our planet.
I love that vision. That's so compelling. So I know that, sustainability and just environmental sustainability as a whole is very core to JGI's mission. Tell me what you had to balance to think about like using these sort of intense computational models versus that sustainability mission. How did you find the right balance?
We were so excited to work with generative AI team at the AWS who helped us understand that sustainability doesn't have to be a byproduct. We can actually start designing the system themselves with sustainability in mind. I was very impressed to see how the first iteration, for example, of the video tool, which I've been talking about, uh, was using this very high resolution video images, because a lot of videos which we're collecting are in high resolution, which can be used for film productions, and the time and resources needed to process those videos were quite tremendous. And the AWS researchers learned that by degrading the videos, they can still achieve the same results in terms of chimpanzee face recognition and behavior recognition, but then it substantially reduces the impact and the time and the costs in terms of running this model. So that has been a tremendous cost saving. Another approach, for example, that if we're not using the tool or the systems, it can be scaled to zero. So in this case, we can better manage in using this and sharing these resources, computing resources in a more sustainable way. So this has been some really important insights, which we realized that, and this is, of course, is just the beginning. So we're looking forward to continue to understand how we can scale the use of these incredible tools in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, thank you so much for collaborating with us on some of this innovation. It's so important. It'll benefit well beyond JGI, I think, over time. I'm curious, coming back to AI, I've heard you speak about the importance of having a human in the loop. And how do you sort of make sure these systems and processes that you're designing and building really enhance human judgment instead of replacing it?
Yeah, we feel very strongly about that, and actually we're building specific tools in the system to enable our researchers, which have devoted their lives in working with and collecting, organizing, managing this Gombe data, to actually add their value to and improve the system. So, for example, one of our research collaborators, she has been working on actually translating and writing those Gombe notes into English for more than 30 years. So we're building a tool which enables her to improve the language models in terms of teaching the system in better way to recognize the unique Gombe language. And in this way, the tool is becoming her assistant, because she will be continuously overseeing how this data are translated into English and we are seeing this incredible cooperation between this incredible expert, which has a very specific, unique expertise, enabling her to scale her work and at the same time teach a system to be more effective.
Yeah, I love it. So as your research platform has become far more sophisticated, I understand you're sort of thinking about even more difficult questions, like what patterns might trigger aggressive chimpanzee behaviors. And this shift from sort of retrieving data to being able to actually look for patterns and analyze it, how is it changing how you're doing your work, how you're coming up with these answers?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that because I have a more than 30 years experience and background in using satellite imageries and GIS and bringing this to the job of studying and conserving chimpanzees. And it's incredible to be now at the moment where we can combine daily data collected by field researchers in the forest, writing through handwritten notes and protocols, with, let's say, video data collected on the same day, with satellite imagery, which are collecting phenology of individual trees on this every day, like through our partners at Planet, for example. And this truly enables for the first time to start removing the silos between these different data sets and enabling us not to develop that expertise in remote sensing in order to be able to start pulling in this remote sensing data, but start focusing on what's important. What is the question? and very quickly being able to start bringing these different data sources using expertise, which doesn't require to have an army of remote sensing behavior scientists, ecologists, vegetation specialists, but being able to start focusing on asking this questions, because chimpanzee lives, their social behavior, interaction with the environment is extremely complex. And as we're building this digital twin of Gombe, as we start adding these incredible digital layers from chimpanzee behavior to satellites to other ecological variables, I think we're starting to have a true opportunity to interact with a digital twin in ways and start using modeling, predictive modeling, and try to understand climate change, trying to understand changes in biodiversity, trying to understand the value of ecosystem structure and function in ways which we couldn't imagine.
I think it's pretty incredible to have the potential for a digital twin of Gombe at some point in the future. Like, just I can see so much value in that, and that's pretty incredible. What are other things that have come up that maybe were unexpected outcomes or possibilities, and how do they align with the overall mission at JGI?
Wildlife trafficking is an important threat to chimpanzees. Often, infant chimpanzees are kept as and trade and sold in the trade market, and often we have images of these chimps. Sometimes they put on a deep web. Sometimes there is illegal activities surrounded. There is internal criminal organizations around this. And having the ability to build on this chimpanzee face recognition models using long-term data from Gombe and other long-term sites to be able to actually track chimpanzees, where this chimpanzee is coming from, and being able to reunite them with back to some of the habitats and the countries. It's truly important to be able to address these illegal activities. But what I'm truly excited about is the opportunity to communicate science, the opportunity to build an education component on the top of this incredible research data, valuable for science, but building an educational component, which we are actually planning to do as part of our work together in the next 2 years, that would empower youth, empower students across the globe who never had a chance to be in Gombe to truly start interacting with some of these data sets and truly trying to understand chimpanzees and trying to understand how everything is connected, and then turn back from that digital experience into their own real communities and engage in nature, engage with other community members to achieve positive change, inspired by the stories of Jane, by the stories of research in Gombe and the knowledge coming out of Gombe. That's truly exciting.
Wow. Well, first, thank you for all the efforts in helping to stop this trafficking. That's incredible. And, even though I know it'll never be perfect, it's great to hear how technology can help be an adder to that fight. Let me turn the topic a bit for a second. For all the executives out there who are listening to this conversation, they're all considering their own AI investments. And I think they'd love to know, what are some things that you wish you'd known before you started? What are some of the pitfalls and benefits and just challenges that you wish someone had told you about?
I would say sustainability is key. Going back to the idea that each individual has a choice, what type of impact we are going to have on our environment. The idea that, which we learn again by working together, that you can start building the sustainability values and priorities at the beginning of the project. And actually, you must do that at the beginning of the project. Don't wait a little bit later, was truly important for us. This is something which we learn, and I hope that we'll be using again and again in other projects as we're scaling the use of these technologies.
Incredible. Well, I want to thank you, Lilian, for coming and spending time with us and for all the work you and JGI do. It's so impactful to the world. And thank you for taking the time to explain your journey to our many executives who are out there listening.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to share our story and our partnership and the work which we're planning to do together in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.